So, I learned a couple of things this morning. Was it a good session this morning? Yeah. I learned that Wyclef Jean and I share the same birthday, October 17th. I also learned that I'm going to have to actually contradict my good friend Razor over here, and we're going to have some kind of celebration on Canada's Marijuana Day, too. So I'd like to take you back a couple of decades to the 1990s. You know, our morning keynote, Wyclef Jean, he was actually killing it on the charts. And our speaker this afternoon, of course, Al Gore, was the Vice President of the United States. You know, Silicon Valley was absolutely on a tear at the time. And there was the rise of Microsoft and Intel, personal computers. I mean, they gave ordinary people like you and me democratized access to technology and eventually the internet. I think at the time Google was a startup, not yet a verb. Crazy times, right? So, of course, that's when I decided to start my first company. My best friends were my 3 credit cards, Amex, MasterCard, and Visa. Now, my other best friends were wondering why I would leave the fast track at Texas Instruments to go out on my own. See, the thing is that entrepreneur at the time was just a euphemism. It's just a word that was describing unemployable. Well, I got the last laugh because that company eventually got acquired by Oracle as part of a $1 billion transaction. But the truth is, we almost didn't make it. See, for 10 years, I had to live on a plane. We crisscrossed 3 different continents in order to hire software engineers, in order to close customers, in order to get backers and investors and close global channel partners. See, there was no tech system over here, ecosystem over here in Toronto or in Canada. It took 14 years to build that first company. And every single step, I remember it so clearly, felt like climbing Everest without a safety net. Now, I tell this story to illustrate a really important principle. And that is that time kills. Speed wins. So today, we have a connected innovation ecosystem. It's working at scale. We're attracting the ingredients that we need, entrepreneurs need, in order to build their businesses. So in many ways, we are where Silicon Valley was at back in the 1990s. Canada is now at an inflection point. You know, the world's geoeconomic map is being redrawn around innovation. So, of course, you know, the politics of Brexit and America First, we can see that that's created a vacuum in geopolitical leadership. And that's, of course, troubling. But at the same time, it does give Canada a moment on the world stage. Whereas others are turning inwards, Canada is now a destination for the world's best and the world's brightest. Toronto is the fastest growing tech market in North America. I know you've heard this morning already, but I'm going to say it again. We created more tech jobs here than San Francisco, New York, and Seattle combined. The word is out on our tech scene. And barely a month goes by, of course, without yet another major announcement, right? You know, the list of companies kind of reads like a who's who in terms of the global tech leaderboard, from Samsung to Sidewalk Labs to NVIDIA to Uber. And combined, these companies are investing billions of dollars right here and bringing thousands of jobs to this city. Now, you may have also heard that MaRS is growing too. And in the past 12 months, I'd like to just boast a bit about the ventures in the MaRS ecosystem, if I may. Those ventures generated almost $1.4 billion in revenues. That's amazing. They raised over $1.3 billion in terms of capital. It's not pocket change anymore, right? So just 2 years ago, we opened a new tower at MaRS. It doubled our footprint to 1.5 million square feet, and that made us the largest urban innovation hub in the world. Well, 2 years later, we're out of space. We have less than a 1% vacancy rate in a city which has a 3% vacancy rate. It's the lowest vacancy anywhere in the world next to Tokyo. That's what my friends at JLL tell me anyway. So today, I'm absolutely thrilled to announce a huge milestone. MaRS is expanding. And we're going to the waterfront, folks. There we go. We're so excited to be partnering with Menkes and Waterfront Toronto and the University of Toronto. We're going to be powering a new innovation cluster in a spectacular facility by the lake. So let me bring this around. For the first time, we and the rest of Toronto, we have momentum coming on our side, right? We can't ease back on the accelerator, though. There are three priorities, that Canada must embrace in order for us to win the global innovation sweepstakes. Let's talk about our first priority. We've got to go global. We can't create global companies just by stoking demand here at home. We've got to help our ventures enter big, competitive global markets. And to do this, we actually need to forge strategic partnerships in other markets with early adopters that are open to innovation. We've got to overcome our size handicap. I mean, clearly, countries like China and India and the United States, they're way bigger than we are. We got to punch above our weight. And China alone, if you think about them, they can access over 1 billion points of data anytime they wish to drive their applied research. So we've got to focus on the trillion-dollar sectors where Canada has clout. And we've got to do this in technologies that solve complex problems that Silicon Valley has not yet addressed. Okay, so let's talk about our second priority. There is a gap in the system right now, and we've got to address this. There's a lack of strategic capital. Capital that is not just invested to drive a financial return, but also to drive impact. Canadian companies, we know this, raise only 1/2 as much capital as our US counterparts. This is a serious handicap. We need to increase the supply of smart money. And that money is connected to global pools of capital that can actually fuel company growth. By the way, we do have global sources of capital sitting right here in Canada. Unfortunately, it's mostly been on the sidelines of the innovation file. Let's think about our huge pension plans as an example. These are massive financial institutions that are admired around the world. They are the most progressive, respected investors and asset managers on this planet. It's not even close, bar none. When you count it all up, there's over $1 trillion of assets in these funds. That's trillion with a T. But with very, very few exceptions, there are some, but very few exceptions, these funds have not backed our own innovative entrepreneurs. You know what? They should. In fact, they must. Not just because of a financial return. Think about this. They need to future-proof their own existing assets. They own buildings, they own toll roads, they own bridges, they have portfolio companies, all of which they actually own. Pension funds own assets that are the most exposed to climate change and tech disruption. These are the exact issues that our innovators can help to solve. So we need to mobilize this money, and we need to do so in strategically game-changing technologies. Okay, let's talk about our third and final priority. We have to keep growing our ecosystem, right, folks? The sudden influx of tech giants, that's welcome, but of course, it comes with a bit of a catch. You know, many of our homegrown startups have expressed concerns, right, about sort of the arrival of these big tech giants, Uber, Microsoft, NVIDIA, you know, maybe even in the future, Amazon. They argue that the arrival of multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies tightens the market for top engineering talent. Might push salaries out of reach for many of our startups. So in the short term, I acknowledge this is actually a risk. But if you take a long view, I think you have a bit of a different perspective. Their arrival actually lifts all boats. Global corporates are a clear signal to talent, to highly skilled people, both here in Canada and overseas. And that signal is that Toronto is a city of opportunity. It's a place where you can work for the best, where you can learn from the best, and you can build companies with the best. Ultimately, I think that this attracts experienced engineers and others, and ultimately it keeps our graduates at home for the benefit of all of us. So, Toronto has now become a region which is a magnet for talented workers and the world's most advanced technology companies. This is no coincidence. For everybody in this room, I know you understand this, the best always attracts the best. So this is a clear example of the power of transformative talent. But here's the thing. When you talk capital or talent, companies or entrepreneurs, they will flow to wherever they need to go in order to find the best opportunities for their success. Now, world events have given us a once-in-a-generation opportunity to be that destination. So yeah, Canada is having a moment. But let's remember, it's only a moment. Our goal has to be to play to win. Not just make the playoffs here, folks. This requires a new game plan. It is critical that we embrace this opportunity to compete at the highest levels, to test ourselves against the best, and to raise our game. So I'm going to leave each of you with a challenge. Whether you're an entrepreneur or part of an entrepreneurial team, maybe a member of corporate Canada, a leader in our capital community, this is our time. We need to stand up, show up, lean in, and take action. We need to back our entrepreneurs to build made in Canada, global powerhouse companies who can win on a world stage. And if we do this in the next 3 years, we create prosperity for the next 30. So this finite window to capitalize on our momentum, we got to convert on this. It will create the impact that will change our world. Thank you.